Just because we had the second-ranked defense last season, that does not mean we don't have to look defense in this year's NFL draft. Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to another edition of NFL Draft Buffalo Bills Draft Breakdown, where we cover all the potential positions of need for the Buffalo Bills this season in the NFL Draft and where I think they may go. Before we get into all that, however, I want to remind everyone, if you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment as we talk defensive tackle. That's right. We all know about the loss of Kyle Williams. If you are a fan of this channel, you know that I am at a loss still because of the loss of Kyle Williams. I love Kyle Williams, so obviously I wish him the best in retirement. Got to see him at NFL Network covering the defensive tackle position at the NFL Combine, so that was cool to see. Not sure if he has a career in broadcasting or not, but he probably had a good time doing that. So good to see him enjoying retirement, but that means we have a void. Of course, the Buffalo Bills drafted Harrison Phillips last season in the 3rd round of the NFL draft, and he will be a great addition to a already great defense, but we do need that rotational or 2 rotational players at that defensive tackle position. We know that Harrison Phillips will be asked to step up, and I'm not saying he's not, but we do still need some depth at that defensive tackle position. Right now we have Star Lotulelei on the one side and then Harrison Phillips. Not too much depth behind there. So we want to take a look at the defensive tackle position. Before I do that, if you have been following this channel, you know we just did a video probably 2 or 3 videos back talking about the positions of need for the Buffalo Bills. My number 1 position of need was offensive guard. Well, with the signing of Quinton Spain, which we covered right here on Believers Talk, the date of the signing, that obviously makes that position a little less, needed. Obviously, you sign a guy who played in 15 games for the Tennessee Titans last season, 14 games before that. That might solidify that left guard position. Not saying we still don't need a right guard, or at least a starting right guard. But looks like for now, we might be done with offensive linemen after we signed 6 in the free agency period. And free agency period is still going on, as Brandon Beane has showed us over the past 2 weeks. He's still not afraid to pull the trigger if something would happen. So what that means is I had guard ranked at 1. To make this easy, I'm just going to bump them out and move everything back up. So I started at 6. Instead, let's do the top 5. We had running back at 5, wide receiver at 4. Defensive tackle now is my 3rd need for the Buffalo Bills. So the Quinton Spain signing kind of knocked the need for an offensive guard out and moved everything down. Again, not saying we don't need offensive guard, just to make it easy for the sake of the channel. Let's just make it, kick it out and say we have a list of the top 5 needs for the Buffalo Bills. So this would be my number 3 potential need for the Buffalo Bills. We're talking defensive tackle. And you know what? There are a lot of good defensive tackles out there. We've heard everyone say how this is a defense, a great defensive draft. There's a lot of great defensive players, defensive talent out there, and there's no shortage of that defensive tackle position. You can look through these names, a lot of really good names. So we're sitting at 9 and we're looking pretty good. Even a lot of the mock drafts have us taking Ed Oliver, defensive tackle from Houston. His name's obviously going to be on this list, but that's not the guy I'm most interested in. Not Ed Oliver. I know a lot of mocks have us taking Ed Oliver, and I will not be disappointed if we take Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver would be a great addition to the Buffalo Bills. And the great thing about Ed Oliver is he can also play at that edge position. He's a little versatile, and we know how much Brandon Beane and Coach McDermott love versatile players. So, he could play pretty much any position of that 4-3 defense on the defensive line. So that's something that's very important. However, there's something about his strength and just his fitness that throws me off a little bit. I always question a guy who went into college as one thing and then is trying to change his game as he's coming out into the NFL draft. A lot of people are saying that Oliver is trying to make himself into an edge rusher. Well, you're not just a straight edge rusher. You haven't been in 4 years at Houston, so why would you do that now? My friends over at Hashtag Sports, of course, debated if it was a money thing. And maybe that's it. Edge rushers do get paid a little bit more than defensive tackles. But if that's the case, what if he's sacrificing, skill for that transition? And is that a risk we're willing to take? Yes, Ed Oliver can play every position, but if you send him at just edge, how good is he going to do there? And if we draft him at 9, I think we're drafting him to be a defensive tackle, not an edge. So it'll be interesting to see what we do if we do draft Ed Oliver. However, that's not the guy I'm looking at. We'll get to him in a second, but let's go down this list. The number one guy on the board for defensive tackle, everyone knows, is Quinnen Williams from Alabama. Talking 6'3", 303 pounds. Everyone's projecting him to go in the top 5. Well, let's say he doesn't. Let's say he's there at 6, 7. Do the Buffalo Bills think about using their draft capital to trade up? To be honest, this is the one guy that I can see the Buffalo Bills drafting up to take. Quinnen Williams from Alabama, he's looked outstanding at the defensive tackle position, played really well for Alabama. Of course, most defensive tackles play really well for Alabama. They always get the best recruits at Alabama, and they always have a stout defense, and this past year was no exception to that. So it'd be interesting to see, if maybe the first 5 picks get 1 or 2 quarterbacks, right? And then things don't go exactly how people thought. Like we thought Chubb would be the 5th pick for or the 4th pick for Cleveland Browns last year, right? Well, they got Ward instead, and then all of a sudden the Denver Broncos get Chubb. In fact, the Buffalo Bills were very much a part of that because the Buffalo Bills were getting ready to draft or to trade with Denver to get a quarterback instead of trading with who we eventually trade with, and I forget who that is off the top of my head for some reason. I don't remember. But that's what happened for us to get Josh Allen, which is great. It worked out great for us. We did not have to go up as much as we did if we would have went up to number 5, and that helped us get Tremaine Edmunds later. So we know crazy things can happen in the NFL draft, and this year won't be any exception. So let's say that Williams is there at 7. Do we consider trading up to get him? Right? We have 10 draft picks. Maybe this will be a quick jump up. I know a lot of you who are watching like when the team drafts down, gets more draft capital, all that kind of good stuff. And I don't disagree with that. In fact, the guy that I'm looking at, the guy I'm most excited about, is someone that we could draft down and get later. So, you're talking about Quinnen Williams. He is a spectacular defensive tackle. How far are we willing to go up? I don't see us going into the top 5 to get him. So when you talk about, talk about the quarterback going number 1, Nick Bosa, and then you're talking Williams there probably at 3 or 4 to San Fran or San Fran's 2. So the Jets or the Colts can definitely use his talents there. But the Jets have already said they're willing to trade back. Now, are they willing to trade back with a division rival? Who knows? We'll see. But I think if Quinnen Williams is there at 5, at 6, at 7, you can really see or maybe hear that the Bills have been making phone calls, because this would be a huge impact player to get for our defense. Then you go to the second guy on my list. That's going to be Ed Oliver. Of course, talked a little bit about him. A lot of mock drafts have the Buffalo Bills taking Ed Oliver at 9. But you have to remember, most mock drafts, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, most of them, they do not predict trades. And I will be predicting trades in my first round mock, so you want to stay tuned for that. But they don't predict trades in their mock drafts, so they have us taking Ed Oliver from Houston at 9, 6'1", 287 pounds. But guys, it's the next guy that I'm really excited about, and that would be Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle from Clemson, 6'3", 315 pounds. I think this guy is going to be the best defensive tackle coming out of this draft class. Watch him play. The pressure he gets on the quarterback doesn't always show up on the stat line, but he is always getting in the backfield. If you watch Clemson, if you watch him in the national championship game, he played great. He dominates the line every single time. I'm really excited about Christian Wilkins, and a lot of people are saying he's going to go in 15-20 range. Well, what have a lot of Bills fans said they want to do? Trade back, not far, but trade back to maybe like that 12-13 range, right? And then guess who's still sitting there? You still got a dominant defensive tackle sitting there, and that's the great thing about a defensive-rich draft, right? If you're talking about a defensive-rich draft, that means that there are plenty of people, and including this list, I'll keep going through some names, and you'll be like, oh, that wouldn't be that bad, that can do well in the NFL, that will make an impact pretty much from day one in the NFL. You go on this list, again, we have 3 defensive tackles that I'm a fan of. And, any of those 3 would be studs, I believe, on our defensive line. Christian Wilkinson, the thing I like most about him is just his speed and the way he's able to control the line of scrimmage and the way he gets after the quarterback. And he's also good at stopping the run. I believe he's the total package. I've watched a lot of his tape, and the more I watch, the more impressed I am. So Christian Wilkins. Just a huge fan. So that is who I'm looking at. You can trade back a little bit, get some extra picks, draft capital, and then pick this guy up as defensive tackle, solves that need. But you go down this list, you talk about Dre'Mont Jones from Ohio State. He's projected to go in the 1st or 2nd round. He would be a great fit for the Buffalo Bills. 6'2", 281 yards. Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that at the beginning of this whole process was talked about as a 1st-round pick. Now he's faded back a little bit, and you can see why, because there's so many good names at defensive tackle. But don't be surprised if Jeffrey Simmons is like a 2nd-round pick for us, and in the 1st round we go somewhere else. But again, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of talent at this defensive side of the ball, and there's no shortage at defensive tackle. And maybe that's why I ranked defensive tackle at 3 instead of earlier, because I know we haven't addressed it in free agency. I get that. But if you look at the depth of the position, let's say we don't get Quinnen Williams, let's say we don't get Ed Oliver, but let's say we get Christian Wilkins. Okay, let's say we roll the dice and get Dre'Mont Jones in the 2nd round. Is that bad? I don't think so. I think that's a good, solid day 2 pickup, and we should be happy about that. So I'm not saying we're not going defensive tackle in the 1st round. That's very possible, and I know a lot of people think that might be where we're heading with getting 6 offensive tackles. But let's not just completely poo-poo the idea of skipping on the 1st round and getting Jeffrey Simmons, Dexter Lawrence, or Jerry Tillery from Notre Dame. Any one of those 3 played really well last season, and they're not nearly as dominant, or they weren't as dominant in college as the other 3 up top, but they could still be a pretty solid defensive tackle in the NFL. So I think we may go defensive tackle in the 1st round, may even trade back and still go defensive tackle, but don't be surprised if we go somewhere else and then go defensive tackle maybe day 2, 2nd round, 3rd round, but we'll see. But we will have that for you live, both days 1 and days 2 of the NFL Draft right here on Believers Talk. So if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, what you doing? Hit that subscribe button. It's down here somewhere. And then right below that subscribe button, or right above that subscribe button, is a little thumbs up. Click that thumbs up, like this video, leave a comment. What do you think about Quinnen Williams? Will we be trading up to get him? Do you think there's someone else we could trade up to get? And what do you think about Ed Oliver, Christian Wilkins, and all of the defensive tackles that are available at the 2019 NFL Draft? Let me know. Again, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and again, join me when we go live for the NFL Draft, both day 1 and day 2. We will have a great time talking Buffalo Bills football, but we also talk Buffalo sports. So hit that subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment. I will talk to you all soon. We'll talk more NFL Draft. Very exciting time. Until I do, go Bills.